I think we'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, I come to poetry to hear something that inspires or encourages me, something that makes me a greater being.
Thank you.
Now, poetry is also a place where I can reveal my own foolishness and my own search for wisdom. And as Gwendolyn Brooks says, in one of her lines of poetry, we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. And that means a lot to me because I know that when I was growing up, people used to say, none ya, like none your business. Well, excuse me, we are each other's business. I think we know that now. Well, I do anyway. So Millicent is not going to be with us today. She had an emergency come up. Lisbeth is going to start us off, followed by Jean Colonomos. She and Millicent host Loose Lips, a Topanga quarterly poetry series, and we can find out more about them afterwards. I want to give you a quote from Lisbeth to introduce her. Lisbeth says, I am a brown woman with ringlets of silver hair bouncing over my forehead, crossing over intersections of race, class, gender, mental health, and immigration. I am my children's keeper, my students' advocate. I carry my experiences and their stories within me. I am whole and unique, my voice an amplifier for the unheard, the unseen. Welcome, Lisbeth. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming. This is a lovely opportunity to spend a beautiful Sunday afternoon. And I am honored to be invited to this meeting. I hope you like my work. Through the liquid screens, I receive images from my homeland, and a homeland that I don't have a return ticket to nor a visa to enter. So I base all that I know from current contemporary history in Venezuela from the images that my siblings and my childhood neighbors send me on chat groups in WhatsApp, because there are no longer reliable sources of news in the country. So what you're about to hear are mostly, in a way, ekphrastic poetry, because they are based on those images, but they're also the voices of my people who cannot speak for themselves. And because this is a congregation, I decided to start today with the first poem of the collection, which is a Rosary for Venezuela. I am a radical atheist, learning to pray. Kneeling to conjure devotions, I hold my motherland between the palms of my hands to protect her against all evils. My words, like the beads of a rosary, slipping through my fingers. First sorrowful mystery, agony. Lord, put the right words in my mouth. I'm not a journalist, just a scribbler who feels her native land between the rib cage and her seventh vertebrae. Not a refugee, nor asylum seeker, a first-generation immigrant with a peculiar diction. My identity contained in the expired passport of a country that no longer exists. Second sorrowful mystery, washing of the hands. Allow me, Lord, to reclaim the ownership for my people's uprising, to validate the courage of 20 years of a struggle against the impostor hiding behind an outdated ideology, acting like the emperor he claims to fight in his Robin Hood fiction. Let me write of Bachelet, washing her hands in the pool of the Secretariat building. Third sorrowful mystery, crowning with thorns. Lord, hear my prayers, end this usurpation of power, give us an interim government, call for general elections, and allow the release of political prisoners. Sacred Aullante Pui watches in silence while the guardians of the angel falls bleed to death in the jungle. Fourth sorrowful mystery, Via Crucis. Lord, be the witness. From the palace on the hill, the caricature of a man executes his only job, make martyrs of those attempting to survive. Fifth sorrowful mystery, crucifixion. Peace medicine burns inside trucks at border crossings of this hope and despair. Litany, mercy. May those who have eyes see, those who have faith pray, those who have art create awareness. May the hungry be fed, the sick be healed, and the desperate be comforted. May Maduro live to avoid more bloodshed. May a period of reconciliation follow. May Venezuela be free.
Amen.
I got really angry on social media, which is something you should never do, pick up a fight on social media, especially when you don't have your tribe around. Because somebody called any attempt that was being done in Venezuela to replace the regime with a democratic government was called a CIA orchestrated coup d'etat. So I took a class with Xochitl Julissa Bermejo to learn how to channel my anger into poetry, to communicate my message and give ownership to my people for their uprising. She helped me build poems from the point of view of an object, or to create symbols, or to speak in second person, all the strategies so that literary strategies so that my anger could come clean on the paper and not, you know, the filthy raw emotion of it. In creating a symbol, I chose something that could represent the deterioration of the country, which is not something that happened during the revolution, but that was initiated years, much earlier, due to the high level of corruption in the politics in my country. El Guaire. You'll drink water from El Guaire, Hugo Chávez Frías, 2006. Before born, a pristine future streamed down from Avila tributaries into El Guaire. Families lounge on its shores, boats sailing southeast, pastoral landscape of a small unbarreled city. Pride for first constant source of energy in the subcontinent. Unplanned growth and expansion of a 167 square mile city lacking sanitation. Applause for canals draining sewage into the river prone to flooding. The beginning of entropy turned to gestures of disgust. Oil boom of the 70s, Caraqueños covered hills, asphyxiating crowd, stagnated traffic. El Guaire converted into a torrent of human and industrial waste. Late Jurassic rocks, only reminders of the river's splendors. who needed clean water. Oil revenues, a constant flow down the street, infrastructure projects celebrated with cocktails of corrupt allocations and nepotism. He who drank the blood of tigers in the garden of the presidential palace to secure passage into eternity promised to clean the sewage, return it to its pristine past, and the Red Seals clapped. Vulnerable protesters jumped into El Guaire to escape tear gas. The promise has been delivered. People are bathing in the Guaire. On social media, only reliable news from my dystopian homeland, El Guaire miners go underwater to recover discarded metals to trade for food. Hundreds of citizens slide down the sewage carrying plastic containers to quench their thirst with the waste of a country gone awry. I'm going to read this verse in Spanish. It's tiny, because always when the darkest moments, there is always a moment of hope. Voz en la oscuridad. No recordaré el silencio de aquellos que me dejaron sola. Recordaré las voces que sostienen mi mano en la oscuridad, susurrando, estoy aquí contigo. A voice in the dark. I will not remember the silence of those who left me alone. I will remember the voices that held my hand in the dark and whispered, I'm here with you. I thought it was also necessary to establish a definition of an uprising as opposed to a coup d'etat. And this is what an uprising is defined as, according to the images that I have seen coming from Venezuela, especially during the 2017 uprising. Uprising, a noun, a revolt, an insurrection, a verb, to stand up and rise, to rise into view. 1. A human river floods Avenida Libertador and Avenida Bolívar. Pubescent bodies shake behind makeshift shields and masks fashioned from plastic bottles and rags. A violinist and a ballerina perform in front of the armored vehicle. After the musician is captured, his face is rendered unrecognizable. A young woman offers a flower to the line of riot police while the stolid abuela stands in the way of a moving tank. 2. Emaciated souls march single file through the Andes, border crossings, rivers swelling with dissent and desertion. 3. On an improvised stage, an unquavering young man swears to protect the Constitution. Hope stands defiant and takes the oath in front of his peers. Voices rise to describe dystopia in 100-second languages. Keyboard warriors tweet the sorrow of a woman carrying the limp body of her teenage daughter. Bloggers comment on seniors lining up for a ration of rice with added bags for protein. Journalists report of nocturnal dances around currency bonfires, and a rezandera wrestles with the oxymoron of an oil-rich country without gasoline. Spring meets the silhouette of 2 men. Courage is marked by chain bracelets around their wrists. Eyes hold the images of darkness, torture, isolation. 4. Eyes retreat to see the bright future of a nation slowly climbing the upward slope to freedom. In my first book, I revisited the trauma that I carry from my childhood. It might be one of the components why I had a psychotic breakdown when I arrived in Canada in 1997. And in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, I revisited that trauma again to set myself free of resentment to my parents. And this is the result. Newton's second law of motion to my parents on my 55th birthday. Learning the laws of letting go, excavating trauma, medicating trauma, thinking for forgiveness inhabits a kingdom for which I don't have a passport or entry visa, while holding the past with both hands folded over chest, a survival trophy. Until mother's voice message, your father weighs 112 pounds. Until brothers WhatsApp reads, I was able to bring them water today. They've had no electricity for a week. Till no solid ground exerting a force equal to the weight of my resentment can hold your feeble legs in the line of a monthly ration. And in the next poem, thank you. And in the next poem, I recover my working class neighborhood voice and speak to my country like I would speak to my friend at a bar with a drinking hand and tell her like it is. So this is how I speak to my country. De mujer a mujer, from woman to woman. To Venezuela. Mujer, I talk to you without hair on my tongue, without a drawer inside holding unspoken truths. Here's a mojito. Take a sip. Young, attractive, educated, and fucking rich. You aren't anything but naive. You have fallen into every trap. First, they hit on you, wrap you around their fingers, and as soon as you spread your legs, they beat you, kidnap you, rape you, enslave you, starve you, not to enjoy your body. Mind you, you're hot. All they want is to live on your back, fucking pimps. Fanning their testicles, dilapidating your infinite wealth. Is that mojito strong enough? Easy, mujer. I want you alert, not drunk. Es que me echó tierrita en los ojos. You're right. See where his sweet talk brought you. You've become a beggar in rags, eating from the garbage truck, stretching right and left, hoping for a handout to feed your brood. Es que no puedo ver tanto niño muriendo de hambre. Look at the pimp who says he'll defend you while waving his friend's flags, not yours. Look at his watch, his private jet, his feast for kings. Where do you think that comes from? Door-to-door sales of Avon products? Su verdadera cara escondida detrás de una bandera caduca. Every time a new jack shows up at your door, warming up your ears, you fall for the same old trick and offer him your botija. With the slumber still heavy on your eyelids, you sit at a low table in the park to learn to play chess. Onlookers stop to pay attention to your moves from the sidewalk. I scream to you, my queen, stop being such a pendeja. Get your children together and set yourself free.
Bravo.
So every part of the book is in three parts. It's alzamiento, exodus, uprising, exodus, and transformations. Every part of the book is introduced by an epigraph by my nephew, Felipe Itriago. Felipe Itriago is a young man of 20 years old who is disabled. And probably because of his multiple disabilities, he can't hold thoughts for too long. So his poetry is very, very dense and very brief. So each one of the parts of the book is introduced by one of his poems. So the Exodus is introduced by this poem by Felipe. Surviving contraband. The borders are paranormal and painful roads that people cross over rocks and concrete to survive, to escape. We are surviving birds when we take lively flight in ruthless truth.
Wow.
In Exodus, the first poem of Exodus pays homage to Colombia, and along Colombia, all the South American countries who have willingly or reluctantly received 7 million refugee Venezuelans who are now scattered around the world as asylum seekers. It's the worst humanitarian crisis in the subcontinent and never experienced in my country before, a country famous for its richness. And should I say wealth? 16,000 feet above sea level. Single file march, plastic bags wrapped around bodies. Hope and oxygen is scarce above the tree line, but Papa Bolivar knew how. Páramo Berlín, Colombia, 16,076 feet above sea level, a two-way road along this stretch in the Andes, 121 miles between despair and uncertainty. On the perilous stretch, marchers discovered death by hypothermia. Between Cúcuta and Bucaramanga, accept food and clothes from the Samaritans of the mountains. On the way down to an unknown future, bodies regain heat despite starvation and litter the road with broken promises, single file march out of inferno. I have 1 minute. And I think many of us can relate to this poem, although not many of you are probably not immigrants, but we have lost so many people during the COVID crisis that many of us were not able to be with our beloved one in their last moments. So immigration status, grieving, humanity lost in the dossier, documents of birth, applications and fees, pero sin papeles para el luto. Without the therapy of a funeral, no 6 feet deep burials, dressed in black next to a casket, mourning goes forever. Grieving in the distance, no visas for grieving. And there are only 26 seconds, so I'm going to read a very, very short poem about baseball. And it's a lesson from baseball, which is our sport. Catch and pitch. In baseball, never play with 2 mittens, for one hand must always be free, ready to pitch. And so is life. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Lisbeth. That was a huge historical, it was huge. You shared so much, so well about your country, about your love, about your broken heart, thank you, Lisbeth, for sharing all that with us. It was an education.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll probably have a Q&A afterwards, but for now, I think we'll invite Jean Colonomos.
Yes, please. I'm gonna close my mic now.
Okay. We're just going to invite Jean Colonomos, who is Millicent's partner in organizing Loose Lips, the quarterly poetry series in Topanga, among one of the things she does. She does many other things. That's one of them.
Thank you, Lisbeth. I have a great affection for Latin America. I was married and traveled a lot in Latin and Central America, and I was married to a Bogotano in Colombia. And yeah, it was a very enlightening experience when I was 17 to see, be a naive American. Yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you for that history and for the memories that it evoked. The poems I'm going to read today are from my volume of poetry about my life as a dancer. I started work different from Lisbeth, well, from a lot of people, from my body, and which, as dance, there's no words. So that's been quite a journey. And Anne, would you keep track of my time, because I'm scattered. I just threw this together, and so there's two sections. One when I was training to be a professional ballerina, and one when I became a Martha Graham dancer. And so the first poem is it's called Heaven Bound. You were my dream catcher, Mom. My desire to study dance caught in your third eye's web. At 8 years old, you knew to take me to Ballet Arts in Manhattan, a serious dance studio where kids and professional ballerinas trained. Some teachers were Russian emigres from Sergei Diaghilev's Sensationnel Ballet Russe, when in early 1900, Václav Nijinsky astonished Paris and the West. His entrechat was a vertical jump where he crossed his legs 10 times while airborne. Heaven bound, why would he come down? Many company members emigrated to New York. Their shaman knowledge of grace harked back 2 centuries to court dances from Peter the Great's reign. George Balanchine was another import. He believed you put a group of men on stage, you have a group of men. You put a group of women on stage, you have the world. I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted to reach transcendence through physical extremes, what Mr. B believed. My first important teacher was Madame Vera Nemchinova, who would crack her cane against the wood bar and yell, I was Bolshoi, as if our Raggedy Ann bodies were insults. The wood bar shook with her past glory, and I'd work harder to suck in my belly, or from a standing position, I'd cramp my overarched foot when I slid it to the side in tendu. Madame sometimes recognized my efforts and would wink, whooshing a tempered joy through my little body. Oh, Mom, the day of remembrance is the day you led me to Ballet Arts, where the dream you caught landed at the ballet bar. Thank you for sending me through doors that opened the rest of my life. This is about my best girlfriend when I was a ballerina. Dear Marcia, we were a matched pair, a different Marcia, not Marcia Dillon. The blood said so when we sliced our thumbs in the dressing room. At 14, I couldn't compete with your ripening body. Mine was a plank. Yet we twinned in ballerina talent, you with your perfect ballet body alignment and strong feet arched like hooks, and me with my 32 fouettes or whip turns, where each landing before the next was an exclamation point. It was as if some force were driving me out of myself to leave all boundaries behind. What we hid from our parents was the plan to quit school at 16 to join the Metropolitan Opera Ballet. When we doubted ourselves, we were sure we'd be asked to join this progressive company when in 1951, Janet Collins became the first African American to be a full-time soloist in ballet's white world. Dear Janet Collins, a slip of a woman, we'd sometimes watch rehearse before afternoon class, absorbing how she moved. The ease with which she executed the most complicated choreography was a language our bodies longed to speak. Em and I were going to live together in the great city of New York, and that plot kept us going through a gloomy and spotted adolescence. Oh, Marcia, everywhere we turned, we stretched towards the invisible light. This was the love we shared, a dancer's life, millions of spinning miles clocked on her odometer. And I was at the old Met. Thank you, everyone. I was at the old Met on 50th, on 7th Avenue between 40th and 41st Street. This was way before Lincoln Center. And we were, Margaret Krask's, the British ballet guru who trained young Margot Fonteyn. And as ballet students, like in Europe, we were asked to be extras in operas and in ballets. And I was asked to be, myself and 4 others of us, including Marcia, were asked to be part of this Sadler's Wells when they came to New York in the 50s. In gratitude for Sir Frederick Ashton, knighted in 1962, my fairy godmother. In stillness, I relive your kindness. In stillness, 4 14-year-olds rehearsed the first time with Britain's world famous Sadler's Wells Ballet before they became the Royal Ballet. Prima ballerina Margot Fonteyn will perform as Princess Aurora in Sleeping Beauty. Margot Fonteyn, being on stage with this untouchable goddess, ballet's holiest of holies. In stillness, Alison, Marcia, Wendy, and I wait for the cue. We are masked mice who wheel in a creaky wood carriage, carrying you, Mr. Ashton, as Caraboss, the wicked fairy godmother. We lower the cart, scurry to one of the carriage's 4 wheels, hop, scurry to the next, repeat twice more, excuse me, as our hands at our mouth twiddle like whiskers. In stillness, the evil fairy's presence, a hawk-like beak nose, her shining black dress with a wingspan attached to attack us. Greasy black feathers, her body crawling with insects and foot-long claws. She dooms the court and the princess to 100 years of death. I mean, sleep. In stillness, your lilting British accent saves me like a tender love song. Girls, if my costume scares you, remember, underneath, it's just me in rehearsal clothes. So, sorry. I had a big an identity crisis when I was 16. Margaret Crash told me that my physical body, my adolescent body, I could not become a ballerina because I had hyperextended knees, which means that your knees go beyond your hips. They're not straight. They make like an inverse curve. So that was pretty, it was a couple of years of being lost, depressed, and yeah. So this is the poem of a transition where I started to find myself intrigued by Martha Graham. The seductive web of discovery. Epigraph by Jean-Paul Sartre. You are your life and nothing else. In my sophomore year at Hofstra's Community College, I fall in love with the ear pleasure sounds of soft, rippling French. I absorb its history, its art, its sublime culinary cuisine that surrounds me with love. From Professor Bourgeman, I ride the sweep of centuries, from troubadours to the romantics to the existentialists who believe in je suis, tu es, familiar form, il, elle, et, nous sommes, the I am, you are, he, she is, we are of existence. Dance is offered for the needed gym crowd credits to graduate. Pat Tao teaches the Martha Graham modern dance technique where you dance in bare feet. When Mrs. Tao says, please be seated, put the soles of your feet together in butterfly position, place the crown of your head to the soles of your feet and bounce for 16 counts, I'm intrigued. When she guides us to round our spine in contraction, defying another classical ballet, no, I walk through the door of wonder. From Madame Savet, a vision of a 16th century noblewoman, Diane de Poitiers. At 30, Madame de Poitiers begins a passionate lifelong love affair with 12-year-old Henri II, who will become king. I imagine this woman as she gazes into her mirror, envisioning old with a capital O. Daily, she nibbles gold, applies white makeup to her face and arms to appear younger. Oh, the seductive illusion of mystery, a keepsake of their love. I think of my new husband, decide to cook coq au vin, Cornish hen in red wine. Would my Belgian-born man feel my love through his taste buds? Who am I meant to be? So this is the first poem about Martha Graham. Joseph Campbell called her a genius because one of the things, the great gifts that she gave to women really was and the world, was she told the biblical tales and the Greek myths from the female point of view. So the first poem I'm going to read about her, which is when I was a member of the company called Night Journey, it was about the Oedipus myth. I hope you all know the Oedipus myth. And so the focus was on Jocasta, not Oedipus. And this poem is about the amazing joy of her chorus dances for women were just incredible. How the light got in. 1, dancers like glints of steel, winged-footed messengers, a female Greek chorus, 12 racing feet, 6 cupped hands, inscribed on our taut, flat palms, Jocasta and Oedipus's doom. When a curtain descends, after image is what is left. The whole cloth of Graham's ill-fated love affair with a much younger partner. The beauty of our sculpted bodies leaving me in tears. 2, those bison jumps, as we call them, arms bent at the elbows, leaping 4 times from a crouch, then high jumps with our front and back legs bent. The image of hovering monsters. I danced out of myself with such ferocity. I wondered what inner fire I was trying to I was trying to put out. Graham's extreme choreography, sending me to a place beyond words. My body filled with astonishment's pleasure when the force of 6 female dancers embodied one. This is another poem about one of her dances called Diversion of Angels. And one of what she said about this dance was she tried to defy gravity. The dance had a lot of jumps in it, and that she thought of us dancers truly as defying gravity. The first section is just, well, the second section is about specifically Diversion of Angels. Devotion, as if honing a dancer's body were a religious rite, as if extreme exercise could turn flesh into spirit, where military precision leads to beauty and eloquence. Embedded in these daily devotions are prayers peppered with the power of Judgment Day. May my plies strengthen my core. May my gut deepen my contractions and releases. May my chest expand to the sky. And thank you for the discovery of a little known secret when at the top of a leap, I widen my split as if my legs sprout wings. 2, in Martha Graham's Diversion of Angels, a chorus of 4 women splay their chest through their encircled arms. The ecstasy and heartbreak of desire in a movement flash. And this is a poem about honoring one of my teachers, kind of what it was like to train in her technique. Deliverance from Martha Graham Dance Company soloist and teacher Helen McGehee, Umanya. 1. Well, no, it's all one poem. I still see you in your earth tone, honeycombed hand-knitted leotards, all sinew and muscle, a homegrown body at one with itself, which I long to possess. It was your secrets I was after. In your classes, I worked to turn this untrained body into Martha Graham worthy, and the way to get there was to absorb you. What summons me now is muscle memory, how one of your exercises birthed everything is possible, overwhelming as falling in love. Seated on one hip, with knees folded underneath, I place one hand and foot on the floor as anchors, then levitate my body to a plank position. I raise my free arm and leg, and suddenly I'm an angel, tilting sideways, a dancer alive in mind, heart, and body while my spirit soars. Coming down from my angel's perch, there comes the command again, offering the gift of flight. And this is about, well, this is centered on Martha Graham when she was older. And she was choreographing one of her last dances, Cortege of Eagles, that I was part of I was in the room. Layering the past. It was a moment of grace, like a firefly, lighting a moonless night when Martha Graham told us in a voice that came from her toes, when two wolves fight, the one who's losing bares its neck for the kill. Though my younger self lacked the reach to suck out symbolic codes, as years add up, I wonder if Graham, climbing toward 70, was baring her neck to age. Her years of choreographic discoveries narrowed. You could see the physical disintegration in Cortege of Eagles, where Martha embodies the grief-crazed queen of Troy. Graham strikes her poses, her twisted torso, clawed hands like hooks, as if Hecuba could hold on to her family, her people, her country being wiped off the face of the earth. Graham is that queen, exiled from her body, whose language she doesn't speak, yet she holds us in her thrall. What I remember is how vividly Martha lived inside her animal self, her black olive eyes with their faraway look, while body, mind, heart, and spirit gleamed with the depth of how far she'd come. Her blood pulsing with life and death when the wolf is at the door. And this next to the last poem, I don't know, how much time do I have, Anne? What?
And if you could unmute. There you
You're
go.
about out now. You have about 1 minute, Jean.
Okay, can I finish, go over? Right. Okay, so Martha Graham and stars of the Bolshoi Ballet and the Cold War. That once in a lifetime fall day in 1963, when the Cold War warmed East 63rd Street at the Martha Graham School of Contemporary Dance. That unforgettable day when Ekaterina Maximova and Vladimir Vasilyev, the wife and husband stars of Russia's Bolshoi Ballet performing at the Metropolitan Opera House, was given permission by the Russian government to take a modern dance class from Martha Graham.
Wow.
That bone-chilling day when 4 squat-body officials, 1 female translator, and 3 scowling KGBers sat on Isamu Noguchi's kidney-shaped bench, low wood benches guarding their country's treasures. Niet defections here, the reminder of Nuria's 1961 escape from the Kirov Ballet to England, still fresh. That day when 2 prima ballet dancers with the skill and beauty of Olympian gods and goddesses shared a foreign movement language and spent half an hour warming up on the floor instead of at the bar. That perpetually surprising day when Martha Graham's signature movement, the contraction and release, became a diplomatic peace offering. That day, after a class composed of advanced students and company members, Martha invited us all into the garden to welcome the Russians. We gave them our best smiles, and through the translator, thanked Maximova and Vasilyev for coming. That day when the star took Martha by the elbow and brought her to her bulging dance bag, Maximova reached in her pocket, pulled out a 25-year-old wrinkled photo of Martha Graham from Letter to the World, 1940, her dance based on Emily Dickinson's Love of Life. That moment when she showed Martha the photo, her wet eyes seeming to say, "You inspire me, you give me courage," then placed it over her heart and squeezed Martha's hand as if she's been waiting for this moment all her Iron Curtain life. that once in a lifetime day when we were so moved that neither the KGB nor the language barrier nor the Cold War stopped the flow of art from spreading throughout the world. Thank you.
Bravo.
Oh, I'm glad you did that one. Thank you, Jean. Let's open this up to questions. Everyone can unmute and let's open it up to questions. If anyone wants to comment or has questions for Jean or Lisbeth, let's do that now. And I guess you raise your hand, right, Erin?
That would work. Or if you unmute and just speak out, we'll be able to hear you. And if you accidentally speak over someone, we will figure it out.
Okay, good. Jean, I'm going to start then because do you find yourself, you wanted your body to be at home with itself, and you did attain that, it sounds like. Did that stay with you after you retired and stopped dancing?
Oh, yes, I feel like, I can't even explain it, but my work comes from my body, my animal body. That's about the best I can say.
So you are.
I feel it moving in me.
And it comes out in your poetry.
Yes.
My God.
There is a strong connection with the body.
Yeah. Yes, with your words.
I'm glad you got that. I'm glad you got that.
There is a poet, Peggy Dobier, who also writes from the body, and she also writes from movement and from her experience as a dancer. It's very interesting to see the connection.
There was a Cuban woman who studied our Ana Prieto, I think is her last name. She became a journalist and she went to Cuba to teach Graham, and she wrote a wonderful book that is a wonderful book about teaching and all of that, you know.
About her life, Jean?
Yes, about her life, and specifically when she went to Cuba under Castro, and she taught Graham technique. She lived there. She was, I'm not sure if she was Cuban, she was Latina, whatever country she was in from.
Well, Enid says to Jean that she loves your dance poems and what an exciting time. So she lifts that up in the chat. And Lisbeth, just how powerful your poem about grieving. That was such a powerful poem.
Thank you.
Yes, the poetry, I feel it. Its rawness and its strength. Yeah.
I really felt I felt your home, Venezuela. I felt that. Yeah. Who is this? Hilda. Oh, okay.
Hilda says, thank you for a great reading and wonderful poems by Lisbeth and Jean.
Thank you, Hilda.
Thank you.
Well, we can go on with the open mic and yeah, we can go on with the open mic now. If people have more questions that come up they can ask them during the open mic, raise their hand.
Great.
So,
An easy way to do this is go ahead and put in chat if you would like to share a poem, and that way we can and you can share that with everyone, and that way we can see kind of the order in which people want to go, or you can raise your hand and we'll be able to go that route. So Charlotte, you are the first one in chat, so I'm going to invite you to unmute and share with us your poem, please.
It's called Dark Consonants. Weary of grieving, weary and sore, worn with howling, pain the consistent question, denial the no good answer. our cry a primal sob out of the gorge, ringing the wind for eons, ringing through the ill, the birthing, the dying, the longing lone child, the hungry and homeless, the ecstatic or abandoned lover, the wounded warrior and the war-torn pawns. Ironic concordance of suffering, evolution's invention for safety, radiates trembling arpeggios to the ends of time, where despair is the score. Sharp piccolo punches, pound of the kettle drum redounding interminably, player of parts in my haywire heart. All instruments discharge hysteria, one sustained note, incessant synchrony, unwavering pulse beyond logic, blares and blares and blares, a midnight tuning, a wake-up timbre to pierce the dawn without pause, zings on all day, the message, the maddening monotony of thrum. What was meant to heal becomes the overture, breaks open the red box, pulls hard the lever, jams the quantum atmosphere. Mechanics threaten to bring down the house, the whole vibratory universe, not a bang, but amplitude, packs frustration, impatience, helplessness, anger, panic, waves of bearable alarm to unbearable, and yet we endure. Every expression, every consequence armed with sensory acuity. Nature, an oblivious theater, registers emotional and physical trauma in surviving instruments of privilege. Grace notes left a throb in black cases, kept in abeyance, no conductor to synchronize cacophony, no exit from oblivion. As the sun reddens, a hot spot exudes unlimited silence.
You know, you're reminding me, Charlotte, of all that I've heard today from Lisbeth and Jean, the amount of work it takes, sustained effort to organize these poems. And many of you are doing that, and many of you have books published. But I really want to salute the amount of effort it takes to hang in there and polish these poems and get them ready to share with the world. I want to really thank you. So is Dennis next?
Dennis is next. We invite you to unmute and share with us. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
I came across this poem. The author was not listed and doesn't have a title, but it's two prayers. The first prayer is the woman's prayer, followed by the man's prayer. This is the woman's prayer. Before I lay me down to sleep, I pray for a man who's not a creep, one who's handsome, smart and strong, one who loves to listen long, one who thinks before he speaks, one who will call, not wait for weeks. I pray he's rich and self-employed, and when I spend, won't be annoyed. Pull out my chair and hold my hand, massage my feet and help me stand. Oh, send a king to make me queen, a man who loves to cook and clean. I pray this man will love no other and relish visits with my mother. And now the man's prayer. I pray for a young, beautiful, deaf, mute nymphomaniac with large breasts who owns a bar on a golf course and loves for me to go fishing and drinking. I know this doesn't rhyme and I don't give a crap. Amen.
Oh, Dennis. Oh, Dennis, that's pretty funny. You're not that man, of course. Now we know that. Thank Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. I think that made us all laugh. I really appreciate it. All right. Okay, anybody else? Would anyone else like to share with us today? I saw a hand, Ruth.
Hi.
Hello, Ruth. We can't
Hi.
see you on video. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm trying to get myself, let me see. Where am I? I'm trying to get my video thing to go, but it's not unclicking.
Well, I see a little picture of you anyway.
That's
Let me
okay.
see if I can find myself here. There I am. I'm just wondering why my video camera is not.
Go ahead and click that little up arrow
I
button.
think let me see. I'm going to get rid of something.
Okay.
See if this works. One more thing. I'm so sorry.
Well, you can read anyway, can't you?
Okay,
Most
I
definitely.
will do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is a piece called Don't Belong Here Anymore. Moonlit sky, river flows by, flock of geese fly high, winter home calls, sit alone on a rock, contemplate Milky Way. Don't belong, don't belong, don't belong here anymore. Where do I go? Where is home? Thought my home was here. Web of fear darkens my world. Time to go. Cannot stay. Seek a place of light to rebuild love into my world. Don't belong. Don't belong. Don't belong here anymore. Hurts to leave all I know. Hurts to say goodbye to all I love. It is love, or is it love that left me? Heart cracks apart. Cry out in the dark. My life, my love, my joy, my light, can't let you go. Can't just walk away. Don't belong, don't belong. Want to stay, have to go. Want to stay, must leave. Want to stay, must go. Don't belong, don't belong, don't belong here anymore. World spins round and round. Heart cries out to all I love. Heart cries out to you. Do not be afraid. Cannot let you go, cannot let you go. Come with me. Don't belong here anymore. Stop the river of time, turn the boat around, knock loudly on your open door. I melt into your loving arms, fold into your gentle arms. On my knees, please, please jump blind into a future with me, jump into an unknowable mystery. We'll travel into the horizon where the sky meets the sea. Once we leave, no return, no looking back, no going back. I come home in your arms. We are meant to be. Don't belong here anymore. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. I dreamed you walked by my side, laughing in the morning sun, hearts open wide. Together we belong. Together. Suddenly, yes, 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 fills your eyes with love. You take my hand. You jump open-eyed into a new world with me. In your arms, I come home. In your arms, we come home. We belong. We belong. We belong. Lock the door behind us. Steer our little boat into the horizon together. That's it.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. I believe Enid would like to go next.
Lisbeth and Jean, I feel like you took us on such a wonderful adventure today. And I crave adventure. I feel so stifled by the social distancing and being at home and seeing so few people. And it was just delicious. This reading was so gorgeous, the whole thing. Thank you.
Do you have a poem? Yeah.
Yes, this poem is called Guillermo. and it's after a photo by Henri Cartier-Bresson taken in 1934 of a Mexican woman in mourning clothes with 2 children. Guillermo. My name is Guillermo. I was 10 years old when this photo was taken. My father, Guillermo, had died 1 year before. My mother's heart beat on, but her moods abruptly ceased, the seasons having no dominion, and occasions, there were no occasions, save the tides of her grief, oppressive in their regularity as a heavy man's snore. The celebration of my birth lasted the duration of 1 blessing candle. Then she wrapped me in a shroud, pobre hijo sin padre, and tied me to her body. Her weeping shook my waters as before, and I waited perplexed for life to begin. My sister Claudia lived in the world of color, but having lost both parents at once, attached herself to the wraith of my mother like a weird little mendicant. When she cried, my mother did not pick her up, but wept in the adjoining room. And so it was that darkness delayed my birth. I grew in my shroud like a secret child, until my elbows sharpened and split the cloth. I came out needing shoes like El Niño, telling my visions to anyone who would listen. My mother, astonished, uttered a sound almost like laughter.
Oh. Beautiful, Enid.
Thank you.
I love that you talked about the occasions. The only occasions were tides of grief. Is David Oliveira next? I don't know, Erin.
David, yes, please. Do you have a poem to share? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, Eileen then? I don't know who's next.
We don't have anyone signed up on chat right now, but if anyone wants to unmute and share, then we would love that.
I'll share one. Okay, can you?
That would be great, Anne.
A poem does not always create a taxable event unless it's published. If you turn a dime or two, then you must profess your profit so the government can bite. To avoid taxation, either give them away, break even, or remain below the poverty line, ineligible for taxation, which may not be hard to do as a poet.
Bravo.
That's it.
And that was amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. I'd hate to cut you off if you wanted to share, so speak now.
Or speak next time we're together.
Or speak next time.
Raquel, you don't have anything to share?
And no, thank you. Next time.
Okay, good. Next time.
Next time.
I think Brett raised a hand, and did Eileen raise a hand?
Yes, yes,
Good.
please.
A friend had asked that I, or suggested that I read this, so I thought I'd brave up.
Good.
This is called Simmering. Like a railroad car, Jeannie's kitchen was dark at the end of the house. She stood at the sink most of the time, her back to us, with a glass of Pepsi close at hand. When we visited her, we sat in the kitchen, not the living room. My grandmother's family home, now her sister's, the kitchen table was against the wall, leaving room for only 3 chairs. Her table was also against the wall, but my grandmother's kitchen was filled with light, and most often a pan or pot sat on the stove, simmering waves of garlic, butter, onions, and sauce filling the house. When she wasn't looking, we'd dunk bread into the sauce like dunking donuts into coffee. Before dinner, she'd sit with her back to the stove and drink a glass of Valentine beer, perhaps her way of remembering Papa each day. This was her room where she listened and stirred the pots, and I slowly came to the realization that cooking was her way of talking. She was from a generation where women, like children, were often seen and not heard. Like a lioness protecting her pride in more ways than one, she represented safety. She made half a grapefruit, bacon and egg sandwiches and Bosco with milk for breakfast. For the holidays, antipasto, turkey soup, pork chops with sauerkraut, and her butter-filled pound cake were her words. A friend said her food was so good because it was made with love. I don't recall her conversations. She often didn't have answers and occasionally would say, "Ignore it and it will go away," which was not satisfying. When her son would get angry, her response was, "What's the matter with you?" Odd how she lacked words and her son had so many. As a child, her mother took her to visit her grandfather and aunt. They asked if she could stay longer, which she did. But with the outbreak of World War I, was stranded in Padua in northern Italy, whose patron Saint Anthony is credited with miracles of lost items and lost people. She returned to New York with pierced ears and little English and the taunts of children making fun of her talking and pronunciation.
Thank you. That was beautiful. That was a great memory to share.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for those of us who haven't had dinner are probably, Eileen, would you like to share with us, please?
No,
Oh,
not today.
Not today? Okay. Well, friends, anyone else wishing to share? I think we've heard so many wonderful, amazing poems today. I want to definitely thank Lisbeth and Jean for sharing with us, for Anne for organizing this as always, and for all of you for your bravery and outstanding poetry that we were able to hear together.
Yeah, for all of us for making it happen. Okay, so we'll see you next year at Poetry by the Sea and at Tales by the Sea. We'll see you next year if you come to both of those. Yeah, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, all of you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you.
invitation.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I put my website on the chat in the chat room in case you want to visit and purchase any of my books. And I hope to see you again. This is the third time I come to Poetry by the Sea. It's beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I came when the other Anne was reading.
Yeah, I know who you mean. I mean, I don't know who you mean, but I remember that.
It's the third time, so
yeah.
One day we'll be able to meet in person.
I hope next poem about Venezuela is going to be a resurrection.
Oh my goodness! Hopefully, it's going to be a joyful poem about freedom.
I didn't know things were so bad there.
Even worse. Whatever you think, even worse.
Even worse.
Well, that's why I say this was a real education, listening to yours and also listening to the love you have. It reminded me of Raul Zurita's poem about Chile. He wrote in that vein, a little bit in that vein. Okay, so Jean, thank you for stepping in and stepping up.
Yeah.
Hearing your dance poems today like this was extraordinary for me.
Thank
To
you.
hear them like this,
Thank you.
I really heard them differently, hearing the whole, I didn't hear the whole body, but I heard a little bit of the body. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Well, bye now.
Bye now, and thank you.
Bye, Ann.
Thank you
Bye,
very
thank
much.
you so much.